Y hemos vuelto otra vez a la clase de español. Bienvenidos, señoras y señores, a la segunda clase, la segunda sesión de la clase de español 2, también conocido como el español 112. Yo soy profesor, el señor Bond. Ustedes son mis queridos estudiantes y hoy tenemos que aprender algo muy fácil. Welcome back to Spanish 112, Spanish 2, the second session of Spanish 2. Today we're going to be discussing something quite simple. It's merely something of a continuation from the last class, which was also something of a continuation from something learned in Spanish 1. So this by now should be nearly second nature. We're discussing today a new kind of stem changing verb. If you remember from the last session, stem changing verb is a verb whose stem will change in 4 of the forms when it is conjugated. There is merely a change in a vowel in the stem. In the case of the last class, we looked at verbs with an O in the stem that change to a UE. Today we'll be looking at verbs that will change from E to I. Remember, the book will always list verbs that will change in this way, and it's always important as you go along into other chapters to pay attention to any new verbs that you learn and pay attention to whether or not the book is telling you that they are stem changing verbs. The book will always do so, and most books will do this by doing something along these lines. This would mean that the verb is an E to I stem changing verb. We've already seen O to UE stem changing verbs and E to IE stem changing verbs. These are the 3 types of stem changing verbs. So after today, you will never have to learn about stem changing verbs again. You will know them. You will be masters at stem changing verbs. Okay? So today, simply E to I stem changing verbs. Some verbs that this happens in include pedir, which means to ask for or to order. You may have learned this or remember learning this in the section chapter 5, I believe, learning about restaurants. The verb decir, which means to say. Decir is a stem changing verb. It is slightly irregular, and I'll show you how in just a minute. Conseguir is also slightly irregular, and seguir, seguir, which is like conseguir, because they're basically the same in which they work, slightly irregular. Okay, so let's look at a regular one, and then we'll just look at how these few verbs are slightly irregular. Okay? First verb we'll look at is this verb pedir, which means to ask for or to order. Notice it's an E to I stem changing verb. Remember, stem changing verbs are also known as boot verbs because we will witness the change within the boot but not without. So, pido, it's an E to I there, same ending as we're used to. Pides, we have an I there, normal ending. Pide, we have an I there, normal ending of an E. Pide, we have an I here, normal EN ending. And then the nosotros and vosotros will work as we've always seen IR verbs work. Pedimos and pedís. So pido, pides, pide, pedimos, pedís, pide. I mentioned that a few of these verbs were slightly irregular. Here's what to look out for. Decir will work just as you would expect it to work as an E to I stem changing verb. It will stem change within the boot. The only irregular part is the yo, which is written, it's pronounced digo instead of dico. So you would expect D-I-C-O, but we're going to say and write digo with a G instead of a C. Verbs like seguir and then also conseguir will have the same sort of ending in the yo form. Sigo and conseguir will be consigo. So basically that you has been lost in the yo forms. The other forms will be just as you'd expect them to be. So seguir will be sigo, sigues. Okay, we have that stem change and we still have this u. Sigue. Again, we have the stem change and we still have the u here. Siguen. Stem change, we still have the u. And seguimos, no stem change. And seguís, no stem change. And so the only thing you have to look out for on these ones, on seguir and conseguir, is that the u, it gets lost in the yo form. Decir, that c becomes a g in the yo form. Okay? This is a good lesson here with seguir and conseguir, that you notice because seguir works one way, conseguir will work the same way. The verb for to pursue, perseguir, will also work in the same way. And so any word that has seguir as the main part of the verb will work like seguir. Right? If there's a prefix thrown on it, that just gets added to it. Okay, so these are E to I stem changing verbs. They work just like the O to UE stem changing verbs and just like the E to IE stem changing verbs and shouldn't present much of a problem to you. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego. Nos vemos en la próxima clase. Chao.